I know, says I gotta go, tired of going solo, but I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am, this is where I finally take my stand. I didn't want to fall, but I don't have to crawl. I'm not the one with two-star hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside this man. I've been born again.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, as always, we are born again. This is David and Eddie on a Saturday. At least we're going to pretend it's Saturday. It's actually Friday afternoon today. Anyway, hey, Dave, guess what?
Huh.
The Big 12 rules.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me how.
We beat the former, well, actually, it was the Southwest Conference and the Big 8. We beat the SEC last weekend.
Oh.
Yeah, Texas and OU got beat by the Big 12 last week.
Oh, yeah. So we've already shown them the door.
Yeah, we've already shown them the door.
Yeah.
Teach you. I know it's not going to go over well with our homegrown fans here, but hey, I'm sure they were happy that my Red Raiders beat the Longhorns, but it did not go so well with the Kansas State game here in Oklahoma.
No.
And actually, we play Kansas State tomorrow, so we'll see between those two who ends up being king
Is
of the
that
hill.
in Lubbock or going up to?
No, in Manhattan. That's in Manhattan. So, but anyway, it felt good for a weekend.
Yeah.
So we'll see how we're feeling tomorrow.
Yeah.
Hey, but other than that, yeah, it was a good sports weekend for us. Not so well in Austin or in Norman or in the state of Oklahoma, but at least the Big 12 can hang their head.
That's right.
The future Big 12 can hang their head. Raise their head, and the future SEC teams, not so much. But I'm sure both of them, well, let me put it this way. OU, I'm not worried about them. They'll be fine. Texas, I'm not so sure. I had a feeling they weren't as good as people wanted them to be. I think Sarkisian is not that good of a coach.
They start out with a bang and end with the whimper.
Yeah. I just don't think he's that good of a coach. And, well, he had those issues at USC. I don't know if you remember.
No.
He had some real issues. He got fired for being drunk on the field and during the game. And that just
setting a good example to the young men.
Yeah, and then he ended up being brought in at Alabama, getting a second chance, and he came back and proved himself a little bit. And I'm sure he's rehabilitated. I'm not saying that, but I just don't think he's that good of a coach. But we didn't come here to talk sports today, did we? We have a special guest, Dave. Do you want to introduce our special guest?
I'm excited that Southeast Tulsa has a fantastic candidate to bring back a conservative voice to the state capitol. We have Paul Hassink. Paul, why don't you introduce yourself and greet the folks watching today?
Well, hello. Thank you very much for having me. It's exciting to be part of this discussion today. Actually, Pamela and I, my wife and I, were out visiting with Republicans in our particular neighborhood, and we're knocking on doors for the Republican Party and trying to figure out who was there and where we could find support for the party. But at the same time, we were explaining that our incumbent wasn't very forthcoming in all the her voting record, to be very specific. And when people said, "Well, what do we do about that?" we started looking into what we could do about that. And while there were some folks running in the race, we didn't feel like they were going to be a very strong voice, and we didn't think they would actually contrast very well with the incumbent. So.
And I knew most of them, good folk. I mean, it wasn't that they're...
Right. Yeah. So I'm not in any way. And in fact, the whole race was very clean. But but at the end of the day, we felt like it was important to step up. And in my particular case, the situation is I had spent 40 years in the business, engineer to director at the power company.
Oh, so you come from the private sector.
Yes, sir. And was retired. So I was available, and it just didn't seem right for me to say, I'm not willing to do that.
Yeah. Now, one of your first supporters, longtime friend of mine, Dan Hicks.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, he ran 2 cycles ago.
That's right.
In fact, he probably is the reason we decided when we did. He said, "You're too late. You need to get in." And so he kind of nudged us along, and we were able to launch the campaign last year, and actually get a website up and get all that going, and then stepped into politics, which we had no idea what we were doing.
Sure.
But obviously we learned something, because in the primary, or three-way primary, we were able to win with 52% of the vote.
Wow, great. That's wonderful. So you didn't have to do a runoff. You just went straight out.
That's
away.
right.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something, because I'm kind of concerned of what I'm seeing in Tulsa. I know, we had a hard time downtown. It's turned more blue, the center,
right,
Midtown, but it seems to be bleeding out farther and farther. And what I see is the younger and more conservative families are moving out into the suburbs more and more. Wasso, Broken Arrow, Bixby, even Jenks, although Jenks is kind of getting a little bit wishy-washy, but those other communities, Sand Springs, are fairly conservative, and we seem to be doing well there. But we're robbing the center of town, and it seems to be spreading further and further out to where Tulsa itself is becoming very, very liberal, and you're kind of at the edge of that.
Right.
And it's starting to kind of encroach upon your area. Do you still find that your area seems to be holding fairly strong still into a more conservative area, or?
Not particularly. No, it is predominantly Republican, but it has a huge independent component. So I think the phenomena you're referring to probably has a lot to do with the school district. Tulsa TPS, Tulsa Public Schools.
Yeah, you're almost completely in the Union District, right?
No. This district is predominantly in TPS.
Oh, really?
Yes, and so.
Do you have Memorial?
Correct. I live right there at Memorial, right?
Okay, so it is a little further east.
Yeah, it goes all the way up to Skelly. It's sort of the northern end.
Okay, I got you now.
And so in my experience, when I got here in '94 with the company, we purchased a house inside of TPS because we were going parochial. We knew we were going to go send our kids to Catholic schools, so it didn't matter what the school system was. And of course, the price of the houses were depressed as a result.
And the property taxes less.
Okay. And so all my colleagues were moving out to the district, and that sort of explains some of what you're talking about.
Right.
Anyone with young kids has to be very concerned about TPS right now.
Right.
Reading proficiency is in the dirt.
Oh, I know. This is why, honestly, I really admire you and those who are, in essence, standing and fighting. Dave knows my stance. I'm one of the people who, in a sense, wants people to stay in public schools and fight. Look at his face.
I'm about to
He's a homeschooler. He's a homeschooler. But I don't. We're not going to have that discussion today, okay, Dave? But no.
Oh, you get to dig, but I don't get to dig back.
No, I just wanted to make. No, I'm mentioning the fact that you and I disagree on that. But in the broader issue, it almost seems as though we're taking the salt not only out of the schools but out of the city.
Yeah.
And we're moving it to the suburbs, and eventually the city is going to be the suburbs. And if we keep doing this, eventually we're not going to have anything left. And at some point we have to stand and fight and take back the ground.
Yeah.
And Eddie and I are actually a lot in the same place, because we flipped one day. I was on Facebook and I mentioned, the issues I'm dealing with, because I live near 61st in Peoria. And Eddie right away says, "You need to get out of there." I said, "No, Eddie, I'm actually trying to clean it up." And then Eddie kind of recovered and said, "Well, good for you."
Yeah.
See? So.
Yeah, I took myself outside, smacked myself, and came back in and started all over.
And he lives way out there near Garnett.
I'm right at the fringe. I'm actually
backyard overlooks
Mingo.
The 18th green, right?
Yeah. I'm on the 18th green. I'm 91st in Mingo there, So. but but yeah, it's something that really troubles me, and I pray about it, and and not just in Tulsa, and I think the other thing that kind of worries me, it's not just, as you say, the independents, and even Democrats, but so many Republicans. We have so many Republicans that have strange ideas. I guess they used to call them the wine and cheese Republicans, or or a certain kind of. It's just a different type of Republican that sees things differently from the grassroots. No, you know what I think it is, and then we'll get back to I think what it is the new Republican is the old Democrat in a sense. So many, I think, the working class, how it used to be, the Republican was known as the rich guy. Exactly. Boy, you keep taking words out of my mouth. Exactly. The rich guy and the working class were the Democrats, and it's almost flipped.
Oh, it is entirely flipped.
Exactly.
My opponent is much better funded than I am.
Yeah. And so I think what's happened now, a lot of the old blue blood Republicans are now feeling more of an affinity towards the Democrat than they are to this new scallywag Republican Party that they're seeing, And so I think that's some of the thing that you may be facing as well. But anyway, Paul, so what do you see as the issues that are really facing us Tulsa inhabitants right now that you would like to see change?
So let me qualify that just a little bit, okay?
Please.
So I've had a career of solving problems.
Wow. Okay.
And engineered, worked my
yeah,
way up
great.
to a director, and so I dealt with problems that were very technical and sometimes just very process oriented, budgetary, and all that. Mm-hmm. And so my skill set is solving problems. And for me to, at this point, try and say that I know what all the problems are I need to solve is less correct than saying whatever you give me, I will solve.
Well, that's humility, and that's an important thing when you're trying to be a candidate.
Yeah,
know that you don't know it all.
Exactly. And as an engineer, you learn that very quickly that you have to build a team, otherwise you can't solve the problem. And so it's very important to have the right resources applied to the right situation to come up with the right mix of knowledge and perspective. Perspective is huge because it's too easy to get fixated from a particular direction. And so there's a very obvious problem going on thanks to our federal government right now of the economy. But there are a lot of underpinning issues, and we already brought one up, the fact that our students right now, their reading proficiency is terrible, and so they're not
really. So education's a big issue.
Well, it's driving, it's going to drive future workforce, and it also drives our ability to actually talk about things, because if they're all they're doing is reacting to social media as opposed to thinking through the issues, because they can't read very well and they're just listening. It puts us huge
throwing
risk.
hissy fits because you didn't use the right pronouns, right?
Yeah, any number of ways. It's there's a lot of cases where people are just not on top of the issues.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
We'll continue on here. There's a phone ringing in the background, but we'll ignore it. Go ahead.
It's Donald Trump. Just ignore it.
So back to the issues. So economy is sort of the overarching issue right now, but there are a lot of pieces and parts. And part of it is trying to deal with crime. I mean, all of us are experiencing our cars being broken into in our neighborhoods. We know there's a shortage of policemen right now. We know there's a shortage of people willing to do the job.
I just want to say, I pulled up the map of the district, and it basically goes from near Holland Hall to the original Sam's Club, and then over just north of TCC Southwest, that big new campus. Isn't that what you've got? Yeah. Or did it change this time?
So we had redistricting.
Oh, see, I was given old info.
Right. It used to go down to 81st, and now it's pulled up to 76th is the southern edge, and there are pieces even north of that are gone.
That's right. We had to move everybody in, didn't we? The suburban districts started taking more of Tulsa proper.
That would be a good way to describe it. And as a result, 79 moved up into Fulton.
Yeah.
And that's the northern edge. So if you can imagine the boundaries of Yale, 169, I-44, and 76th, that takes up the vast majority.
Wow. Yep.
And so
north.
The result is that the northern sections have been very interested in my message.
Good.
They love the common sense. They love the business experience. And they especially love the fact that I've never been in politics.
Yeah, and this is really, it's more working class people than, say, go over to 70 where you get a lot of the Brookside Mansion folks.
Yes, no, it definitely is not a mansion area.
Right.
Across the board.
So these are people raising families. These are not trust fund babies by and large. These are people with real world issues, the
Very
workplace,
much so.
education for their kids, and then their neighborhood, safety, and a number of things. Gotcha.
So, all the basics.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the place where we need to have the attention. How you solve that is you figure out what the root causes are. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that has become very obvious in talking at doors is when I reach teachers, the message is absolutely clear that they don't get to teach. Yeah. They are spending all their time doing things that are outside of the vocation that they have.
Yeah.
They're having to feed kids. They're having to read scripts in cases. In some places, they won't be allowed to teach what they from their own skill sets and their own material. They have to deal with disciplinary issues all the time. Yeah, large classrooms so that they just can't spend the time with the kids.
Yeah.
And so,
but let me just tell you, classroom size. Because we've lost discipline, we've therefore had to drop our classroom sizes so it was less disruption, right? Because we're baby boomers. I never had a class through elementary and junior high that wasn't less than 30 kids. Mm-hmm. That's unheard of now.
Today.
It is.
Yeah. But we had discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were so afraid the teacher might tell our parents because then we were really going to get it.
Yep.
Now the parent doesn't even hardly want to tell, or the teacher doesn't want to tell the parent because the parent will take the kid's side most of the time.
So I had an interesting experience. So one of the guys at church is a teacher, and I was asking him about this problem, and he said it's kind of counterintuitive. So one of the things they were dealing with in discipline is they had some that were just incorrigible. They couldn't deal with them one way or another. And so they finally just sent them home and said, "You're out. You're gone, guy." And that started working because the parents said, "Oh no, I'm stuck with this horrific kid. And if I don't clean him up, then," and so the principal who had experienced this and figured this out was able to take something that seems non-intuitive and actually make it work. Yeah. And the basic message was, if we can push education back to the principals and the school itself, we clean up so much. It's all these top-down people who think they know what's best for everybody and try to do one size fits all. As an engineer, I learned a long time ago, you don't treat everything the same way. No. You'll break the thing.
Well, a mutual friend of ours, Steve Kunzweiler, the DA, called me one Saturday morning a month ago and said, I'm trying to help Paul. Paul's asking some honest questions. And, Dave, would you help do a little consulting on some mental health things, which we did. That told me right away I was dealing with somebody who wasn't going to the Capitol because he knew it all, but somebody that started out saying, okay, I need to find out what are the real issues here.
That's right.
And if you're doing it on mental health issues, you're probably doing other things. Maybe it's the engineer in you that says, you know what, we can't afford to screw this up. We got to do it right.
One thing, though, that I always see as a dilemma is, you're going to the state capitol.
Right.
And you come from Tulsa and the Tulsa issues and everything. And it's almost like you end up at the State House and you get trapped in that jungle of all the state issues. And you spend all your time with people up there arguing about things like rest stops, the restaurants at the roadside, rest stop, and what's happening here, and the governor this, and the this, and the this, and this, and it's almost like people leave their town and they don't have time to actually focus back on their local communities. And it's a shame, because you're going there with the total sole focus of, I want to see what I can do for my community, my district.
You're the representative of your district.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're just a small representation of what happens going to Washington. You think of our Congress people, our representatives representing our House district, and then they get to Washington and they're sitting there worried about Nancy Pelosi's husband investing in stock trades and stuff. You know what I mean? It's like something went wrong somewhere along the way, that we are no longer able to focus on the things that it's almost like everyone should have a certain amount of time carved out that they can bring their district issues before, and everybody has to sit there and shut up. It's like in school. I mean, almost like in school. No, I'm sorry, Johnny, it's Dave's day. Dave, we're going to listen to Dave today. Dave, you're going to present your report. You're going to tell us what happened in your life. And then we listen to Dave, and then Dave gets his report. So, and then we're going to figure out what we're going to do with Dave's community and Paul's community and Eddie's community and so on and so, until we're able to, and then we might find out that Dave, Paul, and Eddie have similar situations in our each other's community.
Oh, yeah.
Because I guarantee you the things that are happening in your district aren't so unique to your district in education as what's happening here, and here.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to look at it from 50,000 feet or something and try to do a one thing fixes all from up here, I think it's a lot harder to see that sometimes.
So 40 years in bureaucracy, right? Electric utility, it's just a big bureaucratic company. While it's investor owned, it's regulated. Well, at least my part has always been regulated, which is the wire side. And so I've seen how that works. And most of what you have to do to get to that point is behind the scenes, where you're developing relationships, for one thing, so people trust you, but then you're having those conversations to find those common elements, and then you're moving everyone's thoughts in a direction where they're starting to harmonize, and then you can make things happen. So one things I think I will be able to do, particularly is with that much experience in one industry, and particularly around things like the freeze we had and the lack of power, particularly in Texas. Oklahoma wasn't quite so bad, but I can tell you exactly why that happened. I lived through it. I was actually there when all that was built, and I was pushing against much of what happened in Texas, obviously without success. But the trick is that I have a fairly unique set of skills that have some real value, and so there's going to be a lot of people that want to learn that from me, and then in turn that builds a relationship, and it says, okay, I've helped you. Now we're going to talk about your issue, and we're going to talk about how my constituents can work through your issue to move forward. So having something to offer where I have some meaningful expertise that are very rare, and in turn using that as a mechanism to build those relationships, and then to take those issues that represent my district and work them back through those same people. Yeah. Because at that point, we have an understanding on how we can move forward.
Yeah. Some of the issues I've advocated for at the Capitol, I have found a lot of support in the Democrat caucus for. Now, what does that say about me? But there were some things, and I went to meet a woman who won a Senate district in a special election, replaced Dan Newberry, and Allison Ikley Freeman. And I congratulated her. It's big of me, right, Eddie? You know? And I said, well, one of the things I want to say is don't presume who your allies will be and who your enemies will be here. You will find allies on the Republican side you might not be aware of. And she's looking at me sarcastically. Now, she and I had a lot of mutual friends, especially on mental health advocacy. And this woman is a mental health professional herself. She said, really? Like what? I said, well, you're support the medical marijuana initiative, right? And she said, yeah. I said, well, so does Nathan Dahm. And I said, I think you'll find there's a number of things you, Nathan Dahm, would agree on. She says, that right-wing religious nut, there is no way I could ever see myself in agreement with him, you know? And so I watched. Now, she got appointed to the Senate Health Committee. And the first week of committee meetings, Nathan Dahm brought 2 bills. She voted for both of them. And I'm watching this online at home, and I send her a text. I said, see, I told you could agree with him. And I watched, because I'm, the camera view showing, she's picking up her phone, looking at it, and she comes back. She says, there's probably something wrong with this bill, but I couldn't vote against it. So I'm saying that to say, there are a number of things where the creative person can get something done if they don't pigeonhole everybody at the Capitol.
That's right.
Because there are some unique solutions.
Whatever it is she thought might be wrong with it, if she had already built the relationship with Nathan and had those conversations, it'd already be fixed. And
yes.
she would not have to just vote for it. She would actually be in a position to make it better.
Yeah.
It's
and
silly.
She actually became part of the solution for some problems that Nathan was working on.
Yeah.
So let's get to your opponent.
Okay.
What do you offer contrary to your opponent? In other words, what issues do you guys differ on?
Well, so the very starting point is voting. So if you look at her vote on any of the protections the majority was trying to move through the House, it was either 90, I don't remember exact numbers, but something like 90% were no's and a few of them not voted, but consistently voting against Republicans. So,
especially in education, especially on CRT.
Yes, definitely on that one.
Just for those who may not know, let's bring it down to CRT.
Yeah, and honestly,
critical race theory.
Yes,
okay,
but even there, I want to avoid really using a label like that. It never used the word CRT. It was
it described it, pretty much nailed it, because
but the intent is to say you shouldn't discriminate at all.
Right.
And every individual is a unique individual, and everybody deserves respect and dignity. And
there it is.
Okay,
and
so
spoke to the heart of it.
So I did talk to one gentleman and said the way it was written was problematic, but not the theme of it. And this was a Democrat that I accidentally ran into while knocking on doors. And so there may be issues in that particular bill, but it wasn't the theme of the bill that was the issue. Yet every time we put a label like CRT on it, it starts to push into a corner, and then you have that problem.
Yes, you do. Now, Jay Stiegel wrote that, I believe. And, I'm sorry.
No, I was just...
don't go to the weeds.
Let's not go in. Let's just stay on the...
But it is important what you're saying about address the issue and don't get caught up and pigeonhole with labels.
That's right.
Labels divide.
So first issue, she doesn't vote the right way.
Yeah.
The second issue that we're so frustrated with is that when she goes to communicate where she's at on things, she always tells about all the positive things and never brings up any of the other options, the no votes she has. And I have no doubt there. In fact, I can tell you a few of the positive things she voted on, but there's so many negatives that she's hiding. And I'm sorry, it's accusatory to call it hiding, but when your letter comes out every 6 months or so and it doesn't have a single negative in there, or if there is, it's hidden where I didn't catch on to it, that's just not being upfront. It's not being accountable to your constituents. You should always say, I voted yes for this reason, I voted no for that reason, and across the board. It's just, if we have a representative that's not accountable, I don't care what party you're in, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And so, I've I've had to be accountable in business. Otherwise, I would have failed. I would have, I would not have gotten to director. And so as a trained professional, I can't play that game. I'm going to be upfront with y'all, and you might not like what I decide, but you're going to know why, and we'll move forward. And that has always worked in business. When people understand your rationale, they start asking questions. When they start asking questions, it opens the dialogue. You can see the positive aspects along with some of the negatives, but then you're saying, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought, and life goes on. So that's the fundamental issue. Is one of the most obvious things that just kind of digs at me is the fact that her sign in the yards does not say Democrat.
Yeah.
Now, mine has big Republican on there, and I'm proud of being a Republican. The values of the Republican Party are worth standing up for.
Sure.
But why wouldn't she put Democrat and say, I'm a proud Democrat?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Well, in Oklahoma, in essence, it's been a dirty word. If you look at the national
shouldn't be
part, I understand.
I mean,
a lot of things shouldn't be, but but it is. In fact, that's something we might get to later. And one of the things that has really hurt us in Tulsa, in the local elections in politics, is when we went to the nonpartisan elections. Yeah. The fact that you're not allowed to mention are you Republican or Democrat is just then
it becomes a popularity contest, and you don't actually know who's there
exactly, or what they stand for, or who's behind it, and this and this. Right? Exactly.
Yeah, you should be able to speak to your values.
They were warned. Right? They were warned. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this. And they did it anyway. And the reason they were warned is because they had seen it affect every state, every city that has gone to nonpartisan elections. The same thing has happened. They have not had a Republican elected in decades. So it's
by design.
By design, exactly.
Yeah, which is deceptive.
It is.
It is really deceptive.
Right. So what do you think, in your opinion, are, say, the top three priorities that you would like to focus on when you get to Oklahoma City?
Learn. You'd asked something like that earlier, and right. So I was going into the fact that I needed to learn what's going on first, and so clearly something like infrastructure is right up my alley, and that affects economy. So I should be able to do things there just right as I walk in, and so that'd be only a priority in the fact that I can do that very efficiently and get a lot of things done. But I mean, right behind that is a lot of other issues I need to do the homework on. Mental health was a big one that you and I discussed. Education is huge, and I'm talking to everybody about that. I'm going to school board meetings. I'm doing the kind of things you need to do to learn more about that.
Yeah.
And of course, security. So I've spent quite a bit of time talking to the policemen, and both the sheriff and the policeman, trying to understand what their issues are.
Yeah, I think Kunzweiler liked that about you. You've taken some interest in what his role is as a DA, because he needs a legislative liaison.
Yeah, and it's actually a lot of fun. I really love learning. I've always that's my nature.
Keeps you young, doesn't it?
It does. It does. And so having a lot more ground to cover was something I actually missed when I retired. I suddenly didn't have that kind of interaction, and while I was able to do some valuable things, it was I just missed all that interaction with so many people and having all those deep discussions. And this has turned that right back on, and it's a real joy. I'm having a great time.
How is fundraising going? Are you
not bad? Now, I'm not the incumbent, so
right.
And so there's a very large bias to not go against the incumbent, because incumbents win, and therefore if you went against the incumbent and they win, then you have a problem. But I've gotten a lot of grassroots support. So I had been collecting donations at a grassroots level since I started in December. And then here, just in the last week, we had a fundraiser where Speaker McCall came in and personally contributed to my campaign, as well as some other significant donors. But the vast majority of those dollars were grassroots, much smaller denominations. And the thing that was just so exciting, so I've never done any of this before. I had no idea how it would turn out, whether it'd be a lot of people, little people. We had a meaningful size room, and Speaker and I were, along with Mike Mazie, who's one of my hosts, were up in the front. And by the time the speaker was done, the room was crowding up on us with people. So that was pretty cool to see all this. But when you looked across the room, there was probably easily a dozen different connections that were not just Republican, not just community. Sure. It was just all over, and just a broad spectrum of folks there. And that was the most exciting thing. This is the fact that whatever I've done to this day has somehow brought in that kind of broad support across not only Republicans. There were multiple independents, and there probably maybe a Democrat or two in there that I wasn't aware of. But
sure.
Speaking of Mike Mazie, that reminds me. Were you at that meeting last Friday for Congressman Nelms?
Texas.
From Texas.
Texas, yes.
You were at that?
Yeah, I was.
Oh yeah, over at the Methodist.
Yeah, well, it's not Methodist anymore. Asbury.
Oh, I'm sorry. Asbury.
At least not for now.
Okay, I thought I'd seen you somewhere
Freestyle
before.
Methodist, maybe. How about that?
Okay. That's where I saw. Okay, because I was there as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of more of those kind of cool things is you start connecting people to multiple events,
right?
And you just tie it all together. So, I wouldn't have picked you out of the audience, but now
well,
I won't have any problem.
I was the only, there were one of two black people in the whole audience.
Well, so that's easy to say because I didn't look at the color.
Well, there you go. Look at you.
Well, and I want to say, in the way of my own endorsement, because I do endorse and support you, is that here's a fella that some of the most reliable voices in Oklahoma conservatism have gotten behind you. And that speaks volumes. Maybe you don't have all the bigwig donors. Maybe you haven't sold your soul yet to anybody. And God help you if you do, because then I'll come after you.
Yeah.
But
I've got a piece of paper over here.
So anyway, that's the thing to me is I think what we're getting is solid, no-nonsense, conservative solutions in your candidacy.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, that's my goal.
Yeah, it's time that we get some new blood, some fresh blood, and some sincere blood with education and expertise behind it. I've been following, and I know a lot of people at the State House, and too many of them in the past, and I fear even now, are there to collect a check. Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly.
They're then look for their golden hammock when their 12 years is done, right?
Well, I don't even think they need 12 years.
Oh, some of them look real quick.
I think it's only 2 terms, isn't it? And you get it.
The Senate has 2 terms is 8 years for them.
Right, but I mean, I think even I'm not positive on that.
Yeah,
I thought it was just 2 even in the State House.
I've seen people exit after a couple of terms because they got something lined up.
Yeah, so it's but it's kind of sad that you're going for just another job where you work. They'll do their 3 months. Yeah. And it's not shouldn't be 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot more than that this year, but
but it should be 12. I mean, you should be thinking about it and working even in the off months, looking at in your local community and being involved in doing things. But too many people, I'll take this time and now I'll go up there and figure it out when I get there. I think too many people see it that way and want to go collect a check, and it's not just it's just our nation as a whole, mankind probably as a whole has gotten lazy and started looking for the least I can do to get the most.
Yeah,
but recognize there's a huge hurdle. I mean, this one's going to cost $100,000 in this race.
Ouch.
And the salary is half of that. And so how can anyone who isn't comfortable, because of a career, how is a young family ever going to support that kind of cost to get into office, much less the time it takes? I am doing this full time. I've a couple of folks that I'm running side by side with.
Yeah.
And they got kids. I don't know how they're managing it.
It's tough. Yeah.
And a job, too.
But then you had all of those people running unopposed. Remember, they found those empty seats.
There are some of those,
I mean,
yeah.
in
But
fact, wasn't there a record number this year, I think?
A couple years ago, out of the 100 races, 101 that were up for a new term, 42 were brand new, newly elected. That was just two cycles ago.
Wow.
So sometimes, and then term limits has really enhanced that. The other thing, whoa, a limpy mic here.
We need a screwdriver.
The other thing I say, and I'm going to brag about Scott Fettgatter, a state rep whose district's down there in Okmulgee now. He does constituent services better than anyone I know. I've called him when I've had issues with a state agency. And that's something people don't realize, that even when you come home, or even if middle of August, you're going to have people saying, hey, I've got a problem with the employment services, or I've got a problem with the healthcare authority or foster care or whatever.
Yeah.
And those issues, and boy, you don't do constituent services right, you will be one term, especially the veterans issues.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a big job. And if you're going to do it right, I think a person in your situation that's in, good health and good energy, and you're not Joe Biden, you've got some mental capacity, but you're retired.
Right.
And you're not raising a house full of kids right now.
Right.
So
yeah.
it is the right thing.
And you have, you've got a vision, you've got a motive, and you're focused on what you want to do. You see a need.
And you're not happy with how you're being served right now.
No, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
Well, listen, it was very nice getting to meet you and know you and our audience. Is there anything you'd like to
tell us how to get in touch with you.
Tell our people, and if you'll speak to the camera there and
sure.
let people know, and if they can, how they can give to your campaign in these this last month here.
Yeah, down to a month. It's a race to the finish, and
39 days right now.
It's a lot of doors from here. Well, it's been a lot of doors the whole way. But so the website is my last name, Hassink. This is Hassink, and then OK for Oklahoma.com. HassinkOK.com. So there you can learn all about me. I have lots of material, a lot of resources up there. This interview today will go up on my resources page under the news tab, so everyone can listen to it that way. But there is a donation button clearly up in the top right corner that you can use. And there's two ways to donate. You can do it online with a credit card, or you can send me a check and it'll tell you where to send the check. So that would be greatly appreciated because, like we said earlier, it takes a lot of money to do this. And while we're going to do it one way or the other, we're not going to let this message die. We definitely could use the help.
Have you got some yard signs?
Tons of yard signs.
Can they pick them up down at the Republican headquarters?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
So let me qualify it. They used them all up.
Yes.
So that was a wonderful thing.
That's a good problem to have.
I had at least a dozen, maybe 20 there, and I found out last night late that they're all gone. So I will drop them off when they're open in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Restocking. So go get yours while they still have them in stock starting, early next week.
Tomorrow morning I'll drop them off.
If they're open. It's a Saturday. Yeah. That's right.
Thank you. That's right.
That's how campaigns are.
They're all run together.
It's the Sabbath.
Yeah. All right. So, and then if you live in that district, if he hasn't been to your neighborhood, he's going to try his best to get to you. Right?
Yeah. For instance, today I got an email about lunchtime from a gentleman just near here, and he said, here's some recommendations. I went straight to his house on the way here and had that conversation. Now he has a big sign in his yard.
I think you got that vote. I think you got that vote.
But just to point out that, it's not that hard to connect with your candidate. You can do it on the website, and there's an email address and a phone number. It all works.
All right. Now, voting is going to be available for those in your district. They can go down to Hardesty the week before, to Hardesty Library, and vote on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday morning. Okay. Or they can go downtown if
downtown
they work
is
down
the one
there.
I'm familiar with, right?
Yeah. Or show up on, November 8th.
Correct.
It's Tuesday.
And absentee may not be completely closed. But bottom line is, if you go to my website and you go into resources, you go to iVoter Guide, you can see how I vote. But the very front end of iVoter Guide, when you pick Oklahoma, it tells you all those dates.
Gotcha. There you go, folks. It is Hassink, Hassink, OK for Oklahoma, .com. Gotcha.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm FBI Special Agent Hetfield. We recently raided founder and CEO of MyPillow, Mike Lindell. We expected to find evidence of election tampering, fraud, support for Trump, which, as you know, is highly illegal. We didn't find any of that, though. What we did find was a good night's sleep. I gotta say, politics aside, these pillows that we confiscated from Mike Lindell are the most comfortable, nicest pillows that I've ever slept on. I mean, all the guys in the office can't stop talking about how comfortable and soft they really are. Before we raided Mike Lindell as a political stunt, I was using a competitor's pillow, and I just couldn't get a wink. It was not a good pillow.
I can't sleep. How can I sleep knowing I'm just a political arm of the Biden administration?
But now, after a long day raiding Biden's political opponents, investigating concerned parents at school board meetings, and egging on disturbed young men to commit acts of terror, I can finally catch a few Z's with MyPillow's patented adjustable fill stay cool technology and fluffy design that will not go flat, no matter how many Trump supporters I beat with it.
Where were you on January 6th? Scum! You want me to do it again? I'll hit you again! Is that what you want? Go ahead! It's so comfortable.
MyPillow, the official pillow of the FBI. When you can't sleep at night because your conscience is bothering you from all the raids on American citizens you're carrying out each and every day, make it a MyPillow. Order yours today and save with promo code B1. That's BEE and the number 1.
All right, Dave, we're back. That was pretty good. Nice guy.
Nice guy.
Very intelligent. So I'm assuming he was at PSO.
I would have thought that.
It's an electric company.
utility,
Yeah. And there's only one in town, so, unless he was one in the outskirts. But it sounds like, man, that's a big operation. AEP, American Electric and Power.
which is actually, I guess, a Texas company. Remember, AEP back in the 80s took over PSO.
Yeah, actually, I think AEP is out of Ohio.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I think so.
I'll stand corrected.
Yeah, because now they bought a bunch because they were El Paso Electric. They took over El Paso Electric, which is a Texas company.
Yeah.
So it's a big. They've got a bunch of companies all over the country.
Yep.
So yeah.
But yeah,
it's a good company to invest in, by the way. If
utilities.
Utilities, yeah. You know, for those that don't know, you really almost can't lose by investing in utilities because of the dividends.
It's stable. It's not the biggest dividends, but it's stable, consistent.
6%?
Yeah, I should have said it differently.
Yes, please.
The stock price isn't going to fluctuate.
Right.
So if you're a day trader, don't waste your time.
Oh, no, right. But if you're a person for the long haul, I mean, just imagine, and you keep buying shares and shares, and let's say over 20 years, let's say you've invested $100,000, you're getting $6,000 a year just on the dividends.
Yeah, so as people get closer to retirement, they move over to those stable stocks that always produce a dividend.
Right.
But the funny thing, I remember talking to a former employer of mine, multimillionaire, and he was grumbling because he always put his money in AT&T. And about 20 years ago, AT&T just went to crap.
Oh, I know.
And, he was mad.
See, AT&T, actually, the time to be in AT&T was just before they split.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember.
Oh, yeah, the Ma Bells got broke up.
Right, they broke them up. So for every share that you had in AT&T, you ended up with 5.
Yeah.
Because you had Southern Bell,
Pacific Bell,
Mountain Bell, Southwestern Bell.
Yeah.
And then Sprint was one. And or Sprint used to be named something else.
Well, there used to be Northwestern Bell.
Well, yeah, but Sprint, what was it? It was out of Colorado. It's whatever, Denver, that whole mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
I know some of those
Bell.
names
Did I mention
forgot.
Mountain Bell? Maybe Mountain Bell.
Okay.
But I think Northwestern Bell was Mountain Bell. I think that's what. But anyway, so you ended up with 5 shares instead of the 1 share. So you had a share in every one of those companies, and they were all growing individually. But what was the name of the company that was over AT&T? There was it was another Lucent Technology. Remember, they were also a part of. They were actually over AT&T, and then they split. I mean, it split so many. I think that's what killed them in the end because they split so many ways.
Yeah.
That several of them started dying off.
And the unusual part of it is one of the baby bells, Southwestern Bell, ended up buying out AT&T.
Yeah.
And see, AT&T was actually the long distance because they had to break up the long distance to be separate from the local service because that would allow MCI and Sprint to come in and compete. And then they still got in trouble because they were defaulting people to their own AT&T. Yeah, it's a funny thing. But, the utilities, they are a reliable thing if you're wanting steady dividend income.
Yeah. And at some point, they will go up. I mean, if you ride it properly and reinvest your dividends every year and let it keep going up. I mean, it's a safe place to put your money because people are going to keep using electricity and the gas and water and all of those things. So, all right. So, anyway, moving right along.
Yeah. No, it was a good interview, and again, I stand by. I do endorse Paul Hassink.
I do too. I do too, for sure. Sure. Hey, by the way, what a week. Stock market is, it's ever since the Inflation Reduction Act, which has done everything but reduce inflation. Inflation has been going this way ever since. It's crazy. These Democrats, it's almost whatever they say, it's the opposite, right? And they keep singing this song about our democracy. And finally, I can't remember who it was, I heard them speak and tell the truth that their word for democracy is not democracy.
Right.
Okay. It is demagoguery is what it is.
Yeah. I don't mean to be.
I keep harping on this. I'm going to preach that tune until you get it in your mind.
When they say our democracy, they mean our regime.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I've been around enough big religious organizations that keep referring to the ministry, but you listen to them long enough, they're talking about their corporate empire,
ministry, right.
Not the Great Commission. Their corporate empire. Right. We got to protect the ministry. Now, the ministry doesn't need protecting. Your corporate interest might. In
other words, dig deep. Deep.
So, anyway, but yeah, you're right. It's that change in terminology. It's what was the guy's name? The cult hunter, Walter Williams.
Martin.
Walter Martin. Yeah, they change the definitions. And you think they're talking the same language as you, but they're not.
They are trying everything they can, right, exactly, to convince people that the people who are fighting for liberty are the ones who are attacking liberty when they are the ones who are taking away your liberty.
Yeah.
And what's so sad is there are enough people out there that watch CNN, MSNBC, and these entities, NBC, ABC, CBS, and on, that actually will believe this.
Yes. Did you hear what British Parliament did? They finally decided to open a July 4th commission to find out about that insurrection that happened on July 4th. That's Babylon B for you.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
That's good.
We got our Babylon fix in.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And for anybody that buys into this, I feel sorry for you. I mean, seriously, because whatever they say, it's just, do you remember this? Did you ever hear this kind of, it's a joke, but how can you tell when a lawyer's lying? Have you ever heard that?
Yeah,
Well,
I'll let you have the
all right,
punchline.
well, I'll say, how can you tell when the Democrats are lying? When they're speaking.
When their mouth's moving.
Yeah, when their mouth's moving, right, exactly. I mean, that's how you can, because it's like they cannot tell the truth.
No.
It's everything they say. I mean, if they would just tell the truth sometime.
Yeah.
Sometime.
Oh, and how do you know?
anything.
How do you know what the Democrats are really up to? Whatever they're accusing the Republicans of, that's what they're up to.
Yeah. Yeah.
They always do that.
Yeah. And it's just crazy. I mean, it is really gotten crazy, and it seems like they're getting crazier and crazier.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's almost like I've talked about this book. I don't know if I talked about it on here or just on my Facebook page, Visions Beyond the Veil. Did I ever talk about that?
Sounds vaguely familiar, but I'm not sure.
It's a book about these Chinese orphans way back in the early 1900s. It was a Chinese orphanage, and these Chinese orphans, and it was written by the director of the orphanage, and these Chinese orphans had these visitations by angels.
Oh, I think you did mention
Yeah,
once.
that they could see into heaven and they were in hell. And had visions, and they could see angels moving back and forth, and they could see people in hell and going to hell and being taken into
This
heaven.
was happening in China?
In China.
Wow.
China. As
Yeah.
Trump would say, in China.
See, I know a lot of
But
European religions that would have a problem with God's divine message coming through China.
Yellow Peril.
It's sad,
The
folks.
Yellow Peril. I know that. No, this was Chinese orphans. Yeah.
Yeah.
But some of the stuff is just so amazing that, in fact, here's how I judge heresy. Mm-hmm. If I read something and I put it away, if I find that it contradicts Scripture, right?
Yes.
I mean, obviously, you just throw it away.
Yes.
I found nothing in this book that I could say contradicted
Yeah.
Scripture. One of the most powerful things that I saw was, and this was written in the 30s, okay? I'm sorry, maybe even a little earlier in the 20s or 30s. But anyway, one of the things was an angel came and visited them, and as the angel came and was speaking to these children, the demons were attacking the angel. Demons started coming and attacking the angel. And the angel did not fight. The angel just stood and raised his hand and began praising God. And as the angel praised God, the demons were repelled. It was like this force field came around the angel, and the demons couldn't get to it. And the more they were repelled, the angrier they got, and the more they started trying to attack. And it just got crazy. And all the angel ever did was just sing praises to God while these demons were just being repelled.
Yeah.
And then eventually the angel just returned.
And that's completely consistent with Daniel's vision, because the angel that came to him, he said, I came to you 3 weeks ago, but an angel withstood me.
Right.
And then Michael came and, helped me, and I was dispatched on to you, and here I am. So it's very consistent. I do.
But also to me, and like I've talked about this often also, is the power of praise.
Yes.
That if you, especially, I invite you to read the last several Psalms, talk about praise in particular, and the weapon of praise. But if you read Psalm 149 and 150, and in Psalm 149 it specifically speaks of praise as a weapon to bind the kings and the powers of the air. And then, of course, Psalm 150 is all about the praise. but 149 is really never mentioned, but it's pretty. It says you bind the kings with fetters of iron.
Yeah.
And but I think praise may be the greatest weapon that we as believers have.
Yeah.
And prayer is where we give supplication, but I think praise is what opens the channels to heaven.
I think it's part of us exercising the faith that God has heard our prayer, because we're already going to thanking him for it. And if that's not enough for you folks, read Judges, first chapter. Joshua, the famous song, Joshua fought the battle of Jericho. He didn't fight it. He praised God, and the walls fell down.
Exactly. There's so many. There's so many examples.
Hezekiah. I mean, you go through so many.
What is it? Jehoshaphat.
Yes.
2 Chronicles 20.
Yes.
Where they put the singers in front. Right.
Right.
And what do they sing? Give thanks unto the Lord, for he is good. His mercies endure forever. And they walk over the hill, and the three armies, their enemies, had surrounded them. They walk over the hill, and they had killed each other.
Paul and Silas at midnight in the jail in Philippi singing praises to God. The other prisoners heard them, and an earthquake came, and their chains broke off, and their jail doors opened.
Who knew this was going to turn into a Bible study?
That's right. Hey, this is free.
Yeah, this was free.
Okay.
But anyway, so I don't even know how we got on this.
But
the Lord.
We've got to pray. I mean, we're fighting spiritual battles here.
In our nation, and that's probably how we got on it. What's going on, and we need to pray and praise. And if I can recommend a book to you, I keep recommending this on Facebook, but seriously, if you can get this book, it's called Prison to Praise. By Merlin Carruthers. He's passed away now. He was a colonel, a military chaplain, and it's his story. He gives a testimony and how he ended up coming into praise, and it gives examples of praise. It was called Prison to Praise because he was supposed to go to prison, but he began praising God in the midst of his, and he ended up being set free and ended up becoming a chaplain, and he began leading people into praise, and they were at horrible situations that they were facing, but as they began praising and thanking God in their situation, there's a difference in thanking God. There's a balance here, thanking God for the situation and thanking God in the situation. And as they would thank him in the situation and praise him in the situation would change. And I've experienced it. Many have.
Sure.
But if you can, there are 3 books actually: Prison to Praise, Power in Praise, and Answers to Praise. But the first one in particular and the second one, they're very, very good books. So anyway, I just want to recommend. They're old. I mean, these are from like the 60s and 70s. But you can probably still find them around on Amazon. And I cannot recommend those. And if you can find it, Visions Beyond the Veil is available. The only thing is the new version, it's kind of an edited version. I'll give you a hint. If you look online, you can find a free one that you can download.
There you go. There you go, folks.
And you just have to read it online. But it's the actual original, and it's a longer version, but it's online. I downloaded it myself. And of course, it's free. It's no cheating or anything because it's public domain. So
that's right.
You can download it. So that's the one you want.
Can I tell you somebody who is praising God right now? I've been talking to him. He's all over the news right now. Steve Kunzweiler.
Oh, yeah.
He had a press statement he called together on Wednesday, and he began at thanking God. I don't know if you want to go into that, but there was a great segue there for you.
Well, I think you already have gone into it. Yes, our esteemed district attorney was all over the news. He was stabbed by his daughter, who has some mental issues. We don't know, or I don't know, the actual inner workings of exactly how, why, and I don't want to know. I don't need to know. All we know is that He was stabbed by his daughter, taken to the hospital. He's okay, and he has given a statement. And again, it's just sharing the need for mental care for people with mental illnesses. You know, it's very reminiscent of the state representative.
Commissioner.
Oh, it was
Labor
that's
Commissioner
right.
Mark Costello.
Yeah, Mark Costello,
And,
who was killed by his son
Yes.
several years ago.
In fact, Kunzweiler did mention that. Can I just put Soonerpolitics.org? It's on the front page. I ran the entire statement, unedited, by Steve Kunzweiler. And in that, he references Mark Costello. And I'll go one further. In fact, I remember talking to Kathy, his widow. She's become a good friend over the years. Mark was at a mental health rally at the Capitol in the Rotunda. I was there. And I remember getting a video of his speech just 3 months before his tragic death. And I published it. And I said, this is prophetic, because he talks about what could happen if we don't handle this as Christ calls us to. And those are Mark's words. And a couple of, it was over a year later, I invited Kathy to come speak. It's Mental Health Week, by the way. Next week's Mental Illness Awareness Week in Oklahoma. But Kathy was our speaker. I was president of NAMI. And Kathy's talking about what she went through. And she said the police had said, do not go online, do not read any news reports, stay away from the internet. And she was telling this crowd in Tulsa of about 400 or 500 in the room. And she turns to me on the front row. I was by John Eccles. And she says, and I couldn't sleep, and I decided finally I was going to go online. And she said, I went to Sooner Politics, one of Mark's favorite sites. And she saw my headline and she read it. And to this day, Kathy could quote her husband's last speech on mental illness. And it's powerful. And I was scared to death because, Eddie, as a responsible media person for years, you've got to be careful when somebody is going through a tragedy.
Yeah, sure.
That you don't speculate, you don't pile on or anything. And that was one I think I did right. And so I was very careful with Kunzweiler. As soon as I published this report, I sent Steve Kunzweiler a private link to it. He gave me a quick thumbs up. He said he wanted to be here today, but he had a conflict he couldn't get out of. But he asked us, hey, hold me in the queue. So I think we're going to get Kunzweiler pretty soon here, so we'll work that out.
All right, good.
So, I would just want to recap here. His daughter was rushed to the hospital. So was he. He fortunately was treated and released. He has some staples in, he said. His daughter was admitted, but she's under also police custody because you have to, for public safety, you have to hold people accountable. She will have to make her case. Now, right away, Steve recused himself. He needs to be a dad, not be a prosecutor. And the Attorney General...
he couldn't do it anyway.
Right. And so the Attorney General, but everybody was on the same page, is my point. John O'Connor, our current Attorney General, immediately went to Jack Thorpe. Jack, I know him and Joy, good friends. Jack can do this well. Jack and I have worked on mental health cases before to be sure that we get people the best opportunity for recovery instead of just piling on, laws that they didn't intend to break. So I think we're going to see a good outcome, just like we're seeing right now in the Costello case. And I think we're going to get her the kind of help we need. But I've got great news, segue into another thing. The House in Oklahoma City and the Senate both passed huge capital improvement bills to build 2 new mental health hospitals and add almost 50% more capacity for state mental hospitals. This is public mental health. Because right now, the cops, in fact, Kunzweiler says it, the number one mental health treatment facility in the state, the most people, is the Tulsa County Jail. because we're criminalizing it. We used to be able, when you see somebody having a meltdown and the cops get called out, the cops might say, I've got enough here that I could charge you with a misdemeanor, but you really need some mental health assessment here and some care. And I'm willing to hold off on any criminal thing if you're willing to cooperate in getting care. Well, they haven't been able to do that for 10 years because there hasn't been a bed available. So now it won't be available tomorrow, but within a couple years, if this goes well, it's gone to the governor's desk. I expect a big signing ceremony. I hope to be there myself for that. So we've got some good things happening, but Coons-Weiler was relentless going after the legislature for how horrible things have gotten. And it is truly on the legislators at their feet of why we've got such a poor mental health public infrastructure. There, I've had my rant. Eddie, go ahead. So that's all the news on mental health here that's happening in a short segment.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to find this next story that I want to get to here.
You betcha.
This is here. I'll just read it, and hopefully I can get the audio. I wanted to play this audio for you to show you what Democrats, especially Nancy Pelosi, of late, is really stepped in it. She's just not having a good month, I guess you would say. For some reason, I can't get. Hold on, let me see if I can open it up this way. Maybe. There we go. Here we go. Well, for some reason, this is. Here we go. Okay, so. Anyway, Nancy Pelosi is. She was speaking, and she was speaking about. Here we go. See if I can get this too. Come on.
We also have.
Oh yeah, good, perfect. What are we doing now? Oh, come on. What in the heck is this? I'm sorry, everybody. I hate to make you wait with me on. This is not cool.
I hate pop-up screens.
Wait, I don't know what it's doing. I just tried to pause it, and I may end up having to just have the read the article, because this does not seem to want to. Well, here it is. Let's see if it. Yeah, okay. Let's see if it's going to.
You're up. It's still live.
Yeah, but it's not the story that it's not what I want it to be for some reason.
I heard about 1 second in Nancy, and then you went.
It's and I tried to pause it, and then it went back off. Maybe you can edit all this out of it.
Yeah.
And, okay. So here we go. Let's see if we can.
Move money easier, grow faster. Learn more at moderntreasury.com.
Why is this? Every time I pause it. Okay.
We have a responsibility to secure our border. We also have a responsibility to recognize the importance of newcomers to our nation. Right now, the best thing that we can do for our economy is to have comprehensive immigration reform. We have a shortage of workers in our country, and you see even in Florida, some of the farmers and the growers saying, why are you shipping these immigrants up north? We need them to pick the crops down here. But that doesn't mean that we don't recognize our moral responsibility as well.
So what all that means is Nancy Pelosi is saying that we should not be shipping immigrants to New York, Connecticut, Chicago, or any up north, because we need them to pick our crops down south.
They're supposed to be picking cotton, don't you know?
Oh, man. Can you imagine? I mean, every night, that's what I'm saying. The Democrats are just stepping in it right and left.
I know.
I mean, Nancy Pelosi is telling the truth. This is what they want. This is why they kicked them off of Martha's Vineyard. they were hugging him and kissing him and giving them money to get them off their island because we need you back in Florida picking our vegetables for our vegan diets.
Yeah. Remember when Ozzy Osbourne's daughter said, who else is going to do your house cleaning if you don't have these Hispanic women?
Exactly. I mean, this is what are they thinking? Nancy,
at least you didn't call them wetbacks, right?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my god. You know what? I think we've got to hear this one again.
We have a responsibility to secure our border. We also have a responsibility to recognize the importance of newcomers to our nation. Right now, the best thing that we can do for our economy is to have comprehensive immigration reform.
Why?
We have a shortage of workers in our country, and you see even in Florida, some of the farmers and the growers saying, why are you...
Yeah, I'm going to back this up. Wait.
We have a shortage of workers. Right
we
now,
have a shortage of
the
workers.
best thing that we can do for our economy is to have comprehensive immigration reform. We have a shortage of workers in our country, and you see even in Florida, some of the farmers and the growers saying, why are you shipping these immigrants up north? We need them to pick the crops down here. But that doesn't mean that we don't recognize our moral responsibility as well.
You know, I think when she had that long pause, why don't you ship these? Or, you know, it's almost like the word wetback.
You know it.
It was in her mind or something, you know. She was trying to be careful that she didn't step in it further.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is exactly, she is letting out the truth of what's really going on in the mind of the Democrats with all of these immigrants. Because especially ever since COVID, nobody wants to work. I mean, they don't even, I mean, this is how crazy. They don't even want to work for Apple and Google.
Yeah.
You notice, right?
Right.
Elon Musk basically fired his people. You heard about that?
No.
Oh, yeah. He said, okay, you don't want to come to work? You don't have to. You're fired.
That had to do with them getting to work from home during the COVID protocols.
Right. He said, you don't want to come back? Good. Stay home. You're fired. You know, and but that's how it is today. These young people, these yuppies or whatever they call them today, they're not yuppies anymore. They're generation, I don't want to work, I guess.
Sure.
But this is what's happened to our society, and so Nancy is saying, well, we don't want to ship them up north because we need them in Florida to pick our cotton, our vegetables. North Carolina apparently is a big place. I've been North Carolina and Virginia and South Carolina and even Florida, you know. Hey, we got to have our oranges. We got to have our orange juice, right?
Yeah.
And so this is what's going on.
But, you know, Dave. Eddie, you were out there in California back in, 70s while Cesar Chavez was organizing the farm workers there. There was no greater opponent of open borders than Cesar Chavez because he saw that the illegal immigrants as the biggest threat to a sustained, you know, standard of living for his union members.
For the legal ones.
Yes, who were union members.
He was trying to lift up, and he was trying to lift up the status of legal migrants.
Yeah, they
the
can
Mexican
work for
population,
a living wage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so how are you going to lift up the legal wage, the living wage of those here when you're bringing in millions of new people?
Yeah. This is really belies the hypocrisy of the Democrat Party because they are more friends with big corporate interests than the Republicans are.
They are still slave owners.
Yeah.
They still want.
That's exactly
it. It's a form of slavery. They still want their slaves.
Yeah.
And what's so crazy is black people don't see it. The only thing that black people don't understand is these migrants are the new slave. They've been replaced. Yeah. They just replaced you all. Yeah. That's all it is. They replaced you.
Okay. So this goes, and I don't mean to segue too far from this, but you just stepped in it here. you exposed it here. We've got a new prime minister in Italy. With called the Brothers of Italy.
Brothers of Italy.
And no less than Joe Scarborough, the idiot on MSNBC, interviewing a guy who says, but this is an organization that has its roots in Italian fascism. So nothing good can come out of it because its roots. Hello, Democrat Party? The ones who opposed Abraham Lincoln.
They have their roots in the Ku Klux Klan.
With what one mission? To free the slaves.
Right. Well,
and the Democrat Party opposed
If you want to talk about roots, the Ku Klux Klan.
Yes.
The Daughters of the White Camellia.
Yes. The Civil Rights Act.
Jim Crow. 1960s Jim Crow.
Yes.
You name it. The Democrat Party, their roots are all there. They're still there. The Dixiecrats, this is the thing. They like to talk about the Dixiecrats.
Yeah.
Black people and all the Democrats like to always talk about the Dixiecrats, the Dixiecrats. Well, if you don't know, the Dixiecrats, every one of them went back into the Democrat Party when they lost.
Yeah.
Governor Faubus of Arkansas, who withstood the first black students at Little Rock High School in Arkansas, that Dwight Eisenhower sent the troops to cause the Arkansas National Guard to stand down. Faubus was one of the Dixiecrats who went back and became a Democrat. They don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
It's that forgotten history. So anyway,
this is how you find out what the Democrats are up to. Whatever they're accusing the conservatives of, they're the ones guilty of it.
Lying again.
Yeah.
She's still lying.
Yeah.
Lying.
But have you heard?
But they're letting it out.
Yeah.
Nancy's letting it out. They want the new slaves. They want their new. We gotta keep the new nigga down south there. These immigrants. That's all they are. The new nigga, and we're gonna keep them picking those berries and cotton and oranges and vegetables and everything in South Carolina, North Carolina, and Florida, Georgia, Mississippi. We don't want them up here in Martha's Vineyard. We don't know what they're going to do. We got black folks to wash dishes up here. We want to keep those other guys from outside the country picking our stuff because they're good workers out in the fields.
We need our cheap strawberries. We need our cheap strawberries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Man, it's bad. It's bad. It's bad.
But I do say, this new prime minister of Italy,
she's great.
What a firebrand! She's Carrie Lake with a Sophia Loren accent.
Yeah, I keep watching her over and over, and even her mannerisms.
Yeah,
there's this one speech she gave way back. Oh, did you see the one where she's attacking Macron?
No,
the French prime minister.
Oh my!
Oh, because Macron basically called them disgusting, the Italians. Oh, she lays into Macron, and she lets him, and she calls him out, talking about the same thing we're talking about, how Macron is raping Africa. He's stealing all the minerals from Africa and making these Africans work for nothing,
colonizing Africa all
in these
over
mines, that he can take all of the minerals out of Africa, and he's got all these Africans working. She says, don't talk to me about disgusting. That's disgusting. You're disgusting because you got these children and families doing this stuff in Africa for you, Macron. And she calls him out by name. Oh, my God. I'm saying yes. And so now here's the deal. You've got Czechoslovakia and you've got Italy. I mean, not Czechoslovakia, Hungary. You've got Italy. You've got Brazil. You got those three nations that have risen up and they've kicked out their former prime ministers.
The globalists.
And England now has gotten a more conservative prime minister. And here's what's funny too. They're calling this lady, I can't even remember her name right now. I had it a minute ago, but anyway, they're calling her this fascist and all of this, and all she is just for her country. She's tired of these Europeans. Anyway, I saw an interview with the old prime minister, the one she beat, and he's attacking the people that are calling her a fascist, saying, you guys, you better stop this.
Yeah.
He said, because that's the farthest from the truth. She wanted fair and square. I didn't agree with her. We're polar opposites. I mean, I've got to give it to him that he at least is an honest politician to say that this has to stop. She beat me fair and square, and she is not what you're trying to make her.
Right. And to be honest with you, he did the smartest thing for his own political future, because he retains his credibility.
Right.
I want to say this was the first best pure democracy, if you want real democracy, because they had it went right to a vote of the people. It wasn't just a reshuffling within the ruling party. The last 10 years, they haven't had this clean of a voice of the people.
Right.
So this has been a fantastic thing.
Oh, it has.
Yeah.
It has.
There's something happened in the North Sea that...
the pipeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Nord Stream to that it blew up somehow. Accidentally.
How did that happen?
Oh, it's just an accident, or the Russians blew up their own pipeline for some reason.
I don't know. I heard Biden give a prophecy about it.
The prophet, the prophet Biden, the prophet Joseph.
Because about a year ago, if I understand this clip, he said, no, the Nord Stream's going down if Russia attacks. Nord Stream's going down. He said that. Didn't say how, didn't say by who.
Well, did you see where the husband of one of the Polish, I can't remember, it's the husband of one of the Polish ministers is a female, but the husband wrote a letter, it was an email where he was thanking the U.S.
Oh, okay.
He was thanking him for blowing it up.
What do you know, Eddie? What can you if you speculated?
Well, I don't know anything.
But was there not a U.S. Tactical warship?
Yeah, about 30 miles from, just happened to be about 30 miles from.
Oh, that's just coincidence.
Yeah, it's just a coincidence. Yeah, and it happens to be a tactical warship. Yeah, but it just happened to be in the area.
Okay. The Navy SEALs, they are specialists in underwater military tactics, right?
Yes.
Okay. But that's all just coincidence.
It's just coincidence. Yeah. Just happened to be. Yeah, that just happened
now,
to be what they do.
I want to say, Eddie, if somebody did that to one of the U.S. resources, we'd be mad as hell.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
But this is war, isn't it?
I just saw a thing today, a post where apparently they showed Zelensky, and they are now signing the papers to make make Ukraine a part of NATO. So they are officially apparently joining NATO.
But I thought there was a veto. Turkey said
Turkey
no.
was, but apparently I don't know if I think Turkey was vetoing Sweden and Finland. I don't think they were vetoing.
Okay, yeah,
So
let's look at that. But
yeah, so I mean, I saw this. I don't know if it's legit. I have to, because I just saw it before we went on the air. But
right, but let's be honest.
I really don't think Putin cares. I don't think he cares if Poland joins. But Putin said from the beginning he wants the Donetsk, that eastern region that he claims. And here's why. Again, I keep saying people make this too complicated, okay? Here's the deal. The Black Sea is the only entrance the Russians have to get to the Mediterranean. Well, and they got
St. Petersburg,
the North Sea.
They have a narrow corridor there by Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. It's St. Petersburg.
No, right, but the problem is, see, if NATO,
they can shut them down. You can blockade that thing in an instant.
Right there. I mean, so what he's saying, he wants an open access with unfettered anything. So where both sides of the Black Sea, they have total control of that.
Right.
Okay. They don't want it. Here's where I think we're hypocritical.
Okay.
Okay. We say we want to use the Monroe Doctrine anytime somebody comes, even to South America.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. The Russians put missiles in Cuba, and what? It almost starts a war.
Right.
So if the Russians say, okay, we're going to Cuba, and in fact, he may do that now. I mean, that if I'm playing Risk, right?
Yeah,
we
Risk.
talked about, we had a discussion about Risk the other day.
Yes. YWAM thinks it's an ungodly game.
It's straight from the pit of hell. Risk is from hell. But so why wouldn't Russia say we now have a right to put a base, a submarine base, Air Force base, or whatever, in Cuba? If you have a right to put your bases, in Crimea, right next to, in fact, Ukraine borders. It's right on land border with Russia,
thousands of miles,
and in the sea, across the Black Sea from Russia, right?
Right.
Why we have no grounds then to say that the Russians can't set up a base in Cuba, in El Salvador, Nicaragua, anything down south.
Right.
Right?
Right. And if something commensurate with that, or something similar to that, would happen to the Nord Stream pipeline, it happened to U.S. industrial, infrastructure, we call that an act of war.
Yeah. See, Trump was smart enough to know. He said, look, Vladimir, we don't care about you and you take care of your business, okay? If Europe is worried about what you're doing over, let Europe take care of it, right? Don't mess with the don't mess with North America. Right? That's what Trump said. You touch us, then you're in trouble. That's all Trump cared about. I don't care about that. That's their issue. And Germany, Holland, Belgium, France, England, if you're worried about it, you get your butts into gear and you start paying and you start upping your ante to protect your own countries. Don't be dragging us into your fight. We got enough problems on this end. And oh my goodness, oh no, he's such a whatever. He's a warmonger. He's a this. He's a that. He's a that. He's an anti-globalist, which he is. And so, see, Europe wants to drag us into their deal and drag us down, and they're not they won't do anything to help us.
They want their cake and eat it too.
If we
want
got
the cheap Russian petroleum,
if we got into it with anybody, they would not think about trying to help us.
No,
not at all. In fact, you saw the deal where Trump was telling them what was going to happen, and the Germans are laughing
at NATO, a speech to NATO, and
the German guys are over there laughing, and now exactly what he said was going to happen is happening. Who's laughing now? Right?
Yeah.
So anyway, getting back to the original thing with the Nord Stream pipeline being blown up now, so Germany now is in deeper doo-doo. And, of course, Poland is happy because Poland has a pipeline now where now they have to get their only gas from Poland. But what happens now if Russia blows up theirs?
Yeah.
You don't think they have spies or people that could one missile dropped in there and it just escalates and, risk. It's risk.
Yeah, but if Poland gets attacked,
then it's attack on NATO.
On NATO.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, but see, it's just a total march towards war, and you've got who wins?
The Undertaker.
That's it. But temporarily, who I don't know how they can think this way. They're not thinking, but the arms dealers.
Yeah, in China.
And China, China wins too, right? China.
Yep. Fact is, right now, China's getting great deals.
China's making money everywhere. They're making money from Russia. They're making money from Biden.
Yeah.
Biden's helping them.
Yep.
So they're making money from us to build weapons to sell to Russia, and it's like crazy. So,
okay, so what does this winter look like, Eddie, with the energy issues? I'm hearing scary things, but I don't know. What have you heard?
Well, I'll tell you what I would suggest, that everybody buys one of these new gas generators from, what's that company? They do the solar powered things, but you can buy a little gas one. which is cheaper. It's probably about $2,000.
You think our electrical grid's in danger right now?
Well, here's the problem. Here's where I see the problem. If you start having electrical issues in those other states, and they start we start rationing and having to suck our energy to those states and
places. I got that. I guess I should have qualified. I'm talking about Europe. What is?
You're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
Europe's in big trouble.
Oh yeah, they're in trouble. I thought you were talking about us.
Yeah.
I think we're in trouble. I think California is in serious trouble.
Yeah.
Oh, it's California this summer. I hope. They better hope there is some global warming.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, if our electrical grid is already overloaded, especially like California, and they need more power plants, but they won't let them build them, and yet they're trying to say, oh, get rid of that gas-guzzling petroleum car and get an electric car.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine?
Who in their right mind in California would invest $60,000, $70,000 in an electric vehicle or more, only to watch it sit in the driveway while you're paying your monthly payments on it?
While you're shoveling the snow out of your driveway for a car that you can't start.
And this is it. I mean, the worst thing for the electric car business is instability in the electrical grid.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even you go out to western Oklahoma, Clinton, and those towns are way out there.
Oh, yeah.
You see all of those windmills out there and everything. You know, I mean, I don't know who convinced them to go on the windmill grid or whatever.
Oh, they're getting tax breaks from the government for doing it.
Yeah.
There's incentives.
Right. Oh, I'm sure there's incentives.
In fact, Oklahoma is still giving them, from what I understand, a $38,000 per windmill incentive. That was the fight 4 years ago.
Who is getting the $38,000?
The electrical company that's put in that thing.
Okay. And how much of that is getting to the actual homeowner?
Oh, none to the homeowner.
Oh, well, that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Right. So in the homeowner, when those things freeze up and don't work,
right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and look no further than what happened in Austin, Texas last winter.
Fort Worth, all along the whole...
all the windmills froze up, ice storm, right?
Well, the other thing, I start seeing, Tucker had a thing on, they're all rusting.
Yeah.
They're all rusting at the bottoms and everything and, falling over. They showed them falling over. They're killing. Have you seen the videos where they're killing the birds, the eagles?
Yeah.
Bald eagles just dying by the hundreds from the windmills. Mm-hmm. In fact, it's hard to watch because you see the windmill and you see one of them flying and get hit by it and it dies and flies down. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, all of a sudden the Audubon Society and all of these naturalists, nobody seems to be concerned because they're probably bought off by the other greenies, I mean, there's so much hypocrisy on this whole environmental movement that they're so busy making money.
Okay, since I'm asking you to prognosticate about what's going on,
all kinds of stuff here.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
What's the stock market going to do, Eddie? It's very unstable right now.
No, it is. It's going to keep going down for a while.
You think so?
It's going. Oh yeah. Yeah, in fact, I was listening to inflation's going to keep going up, and the market's going to go down.
So, at what point do you think Biden will admit we're in a recession?
He probably never will. The only hope that we have is for the Republicans to take control of both houses again, and then for them to cut first of all, they got to get rid of this whole idea of the IRS agents. They've got to hold fast on the budget and get rid of all of the superfluous spending. Okay. And then once that happens, the government spending gets cut, and then they start allowing drilling and open up these licenses. I'll tell you two things they could do, but one of the main ones, I think they should immediately work towards reopening nuclear power plants. That I'll tell you what, you open 2 nuclear power plants in America, it would change the economy of America. You could even, I mean, the funny thing is, if you want to go to electric cars, nuclear power plants is the answer.
I would agree with you. I personally am a big fan of natural gas vehicles. I just think it's something we've got in abundance. We've already got it online and everything. And right now, there are plenty of filling stations around the state. You don't have to worry about right now.
For a while. But ultimately, I think the nuclear is the way to go. The problem with the natural gas is eventually, like oil, you're going to run out of it.
Possibly.
I mean, there's a time when you're not going to have
no, I
gas.
get it. You're digging up the old treasure. But, the same's true of nuclear fuels.
Well,
it's not cheap.
Well, but nuclear, I think you can reproduce the nuclear through fission.
Yeah,
nuclear fission. So I think they can. There's ways of reproducing, creating the nuclear fission.
You've got to dig up the materials, which is not cheap, and then you've got to develop your rods.
The radium and
right. And then when the spent rods are done, you've got to store them in a safe
way
for
10,000 years.
Right. So it's not without cost.
No, I understand, but they last so long apparently.
And they're other than the remote risk of any kind of radiation leak, and that it's a completely pure, non-polluting.
Right. Yeah. And there was never an accident in America or Europe.
Yes.
Never. So.
Yeah. And
they're still running the ones in Ukraine.
Yeah.
Those are the ones right now that are.
Fact is, you and I found out Chernobyl's still online. They had to shut down one of them.
And they're still running Europe. I mean, they're still Western Europe is still running
it's still
off
on
of
that
nuclear
grid,
power.
Isn't it?
So
and it's not killing the birds.
It's not. No,
and I have to say, you think, well, stupid bird. I guess it's Darwin's law.
Yeah.
But you know what? Those blades. In fact, my oldest brother actually is involved in building the substations that collect the powers from these windmills. Right. He's out in North Dakota a lot and still is. And he said, you see these windmills and you don't appreciate just how massive they are till you get really close. That little generator in the middle is the size of a school bus, okay? But you think it's little. It's not. No. And so those blades, which there are 3 of them, and it comes flying through. That tip is going at massive, massive speed. And a bird is not designed by God to see something coming down on him like that. Right. It's a guillotine.
Yeah. I've seen them on the highway. I passed them with trucks that are hauling these things.
Yes.
And they're so long.
They need special permits to drive, because they're bigger than a semi-truck. Yeah. They're about the size of 2 of them. And so you
about 100 feet long.
Yeah. So, and a semi can handle a 45-foot trailer, and these things, are 90 or 100. So,
hey,
what do you got?
I'm gonna finish. I got to get out of here.
Yep.
Get home to my mother. Sounds funny. Got to get home to my mom.
He's a good son. He takes care of his mom.
Yeah, I got to take care of my 95-year-old mother.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to finish with this last story here. We'll continue. Oh, we didn't even get into the hurricane, but it's okay. We'll, hurricane will take care of itself. Did we talk about the hurricane?
We didn't. Fort Myers got blasted. That's what I know.
It was a bad hurricane, and the governor of Florida has done a great job.
Yeah.
Joe Biden is on the air every hour now trying to take credit for it. He's trying to act like it was him, but it wasn't. It was Ron DeSantis that's taking care of it. So don't be fooled. Again, it's Biden is.
By the way, Oklahoma utility workers are already on the ground out there.
Yeah, I heard.
26 states have responded already.
So that's one thing. See, what people don't understand is that Ron DeSantis was way ahead of this thing.
Yep.
I mean, for Oklahoma and all these 26 states to already have people out there, he had them on standby. Mm-hmm. They've been on call already. I mean, 300 food trucks were already on standby.
Yeah.
And the night of, the food trucks were already in action to bring food to the people. I mean, listen, I want Trump to be president once again, okay? I'm a Trump guy. I have been, and I still am. But Ron DeSantis, if Trump shouldn't do it, Ron DeSantis is the guy. And one reason that I don't want DeSantis right now is because as soon as Ron DeSantis were to be the guy, he would be the guy that becomes Trump.
Yeah.
They will do to him what
Sure.
they've been doing. I mean, that's just how they are.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't fool yourself thinking that if Trump is gone, that Ron DeSantis is going to be the guy. They'll attack him, his wife, his children, everything. You'll find stuff about Ron DeSantis that you will never even believe that he could have been.
Have you heard the newest member of the bandwagon for DeSantis now? TW Shannon.
Oh, yeah, TW.
I heard him this morning. Yeah. He's back on Newsmax. And here's the thing. TW was a Trump guy way back in the famous ORU meeting. And
well, you know why I think that is? Because he supported
Mark Wayne Mullen. Yeah. And you know what? If I'm TW and I got screwed, I've been a Trump guy from the beginning and that, yeah. You know what? That's politics, folks. TW is not wrong, but I disagree with him.
Okay.
I mean, from TW's perspective, it makes sense what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's getting on board with DeSantis now.
Yeah. Hey, well, listen, I've got one final story. It's kind of an interesting, really, really kind of a strange one.
Yeah.
Apple's vice president of procurement, Tony Blevins, is reportedly leaving the company that makes iPhones.
Leaving? I think he got booted out.
No, he quit.
Oh, okay.
He's leaving the company that makes iPhones, MacBooks, and other consumer electronics products because he went viral on TikTok for an off-color comment. It wasn't about race or anything like this. He was just being a guy.
Yeah.
A TikTok star, Daniel Mack, who has a series where he asks the owners of expensive cars what they do for a living. He approached Blevin on September 5th in a video. Blevins can be seen driving a Mercedes-Benz.
Nice
He
car.
He says, I have rich cars, play golf, and fondle big-breasted women.
Yes.
But I take weekends off and major holidays. Blevins replied and added that he has a hell of a dental plan. Blevins' remark appears to be a nod to a quote from a 1981 film, Arthur, in which the title character describes his job as saying, I race cars, play tennis, and fondle women, but I have weekends off and I'm my own boss. So Blevins said, I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize to anyone who was offended by my mistaken attempt at humor.
Yeah.
Okay, it's like a canned response. Everybody's, I'd like to apologize to anyone who may have been offended.
Yeah,
it's the same
may
thing.
Have misunderstood my comment.
Why? Why apologize? It gets you nowhere. Own it, buddy. Just own it, right? Yeah. It was seen by 1.4 million viewers on TikTok. Just own it. Say, yeah. It was a joke, people.
Eddie, if you were in his place, not that you would ever have said that.
No, not me.
Would you resign for having said that? I mean, fact that it got viral.
No, because I personally happen to like big-breasted women.
Okay. And he was trying to be funny by quoting. It was plagiarism.
Yeah, he was quoting a movie.
Yeah.
He thought he was being funny. But to quit? Are you kidding me? He's going to resign this job because he was quoting a movie for a guy videoing him for a tick, and now he's going to resign? Come on. Yeah. The world has gotten silly. And for anybody to make him resign from his job is just as silly.
Yeah, and that's really how I should have said it is, Eddie, would you have demanded his resignation? You would not.
No.
Okay. I mean, you or I wouldn't have said something like that, I hope.
No.
But
no,
I hope I wouldn't.
I don't even know quotes like that. I don't even know where he would be.
But yes, in the course of his official duties, nobody was harmed by what he said.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't speak of any specific woman. He didn't speak of any specific race. He didn't speak of he made an offer, and now the guy has had to quit. First of all, you know what? I'm glad he resigned. Just for the stupidity of resigning. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, if you're that dumb that you're going to fall on a sword for something like that, you deserve to not have the job.
This is where Trump is brilliant. He knows if you retreat a moment, he told Joe Rogan that, do not apologize.
It will get
they will eat your lunch if you apologize.
It will get you nothing. You see where Trevor Noah is gone.
Yeah.
He quit his thing. He was smart, though. He was smart because, his ratings have been falling. Mm-hmm. But I think Trevor Noah, I think what happened with him, unlike Jimmy Kimmel and some of these, I think Trevor Noah finally said, I'm sorry, people, I've had enough. I can't do this anymore.
Well, Jerry,
and he quit. Yeah. He quit playing the game.
And that's it. Jerry Seinfeld just flat out said, I ain't going back to a college campus because you guys don't have a sense of humor anymore.
Yeah.
You made degrees in being offended.
Trevor Noah just finally said, I'm not playing this liberal game anymore. This is silly. I'm not playing it. I'm not attacking this side and going for this. And that's the secret to what's the little bitty short comedian, the black comedian. Oh my goodness, he's everywhere. He's doing the betting.
Terrence.
No. Everybody out here probably knows who I'm talking about.
I know the little guy from Broken Arrow.
No, this is a real. This is the big, huge. He's in movies and comedy everywhere. Oh my goodness, how can I not? Anyway, they tried to get him, and he's because they wanted him to attack Trump and they wanted him to go this way. He said, he said, man, Republicans love me.
Okay.
He said, Republicans go to my movies. He said, I ain't attacking nobody, and he was smart.
Yeah.
He realizes that I am out here to entertain everyone. I am out here to entertain everyone, and everyone who wants to be entertained by me, everyone who is a fan of mine. I am not going to attack the person that they care about.
Yeah.
I'm going to be funny, and I'm going to make fun. I'm not getting political.
Now, I got to say,
and that's what it is.
I was in Manhattan this summer. My son took me out there, and we went up to the Village and went to a pretty prominent comedy spot, the Cellar, Comedy Cellar. I got to tell you, something refreshing about it. Occasionally, because there were like 7 or 8 comedians in the lineup that night. It was a great show. And somebody decided to get offended that person that got offended got heckled out of the place because they were going to have none of it.
Yeah.
They like their comedy.
Yeah. Kevin Hart is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, Kevin Hart. Sure.
But that happened. I saw Bill Cosby here at the Cherokee Casino. And he was making fun of the Indians.
Yeah.
And some drunk Indian.
At the Cherokee Casino.
But see, that's how he just didn't care. And so there's some drunk woman got offended or something and started just cussing at him from and the crowd started, like you said, heckling her. And he said, no, stop. And the people, he said, please stop. Because if you keep on, security can't find her. So please stop. And so finally they stopped, and security came and dragged the lady out, and she was gone. She was all out. But he was, but it was funny. I mean, the stuff he was saying, we don't have time for it, the joke that he told. But it was good. It made sense. The punchline of the final one he told was about that when the pioneers were coming across and. They were taking wagon train lessons on, and then the Indians were attacking, and he said the Indians were coming and they were attacking and getting their bows ready to attack and shoot, and the wagon train circled up, and he says, man, they got it all wrong. They could have saved so many lives and stopped. He said all they had to do when they got about 50 yards away, they should have stopped, jumped off their horses, and dropped slot machines down.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, we got to end on that. I've got to get home and take care of Mama.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening, and we will do this again next week. Hopefully, you've been entertained, and thank you again.
I know, says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am, this is where I finally take my stand. I didn't want to fall, but I don't have to crawl. I'm not the one with two scar hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside this man. I've been born again.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, as always, we are born again. This is David and Eddie on a Saturday. At least we're going to pretend it's Saturday. It's actually Friday afternoon today. Anyway, hey, Dave, guess what?
Huh.
The Big 12 rules.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me how.
We beat the former, well, actually, it was the Southwest Conference